Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Carmen Concepcion, and I get to be the principal at this beautiful school in this amazing community. I want to welcome you all on behalf of our students, our staff, and our families. When I was given the opportunity to open Charlotte East, I quickly came to find that there is a lot of emotional attachment to this piece of land that was Eastern Mall. The community fondly remembers times when they had their first jobs, they came to trips to the mall with their friends, and then unfortunately the deterioration that led to its closing. What was once a thriving hub became a barren land. When we chose our school mascot to be the wolf, we were very intentional about it. The wolf has become a symbol of great pride for us. As you saw in our lobby, there's a Rudyard Kipling quote, "The strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf." We stand strong together in that notion here at Charlotte East Language Academy. And we've taken on a special mission, and that is to change the course of the river. We invite you to watch this video, join us, the Sela Wolves, in making this area once again a hub of life, success, and thriving culture. Thank you.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in various species of animals, but perhaps we that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer become, despite efforts by humans to control, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds, of migratory birds, started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion, the channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitat. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion. The vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transform not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
And thank you all for being here and coming to this very special place. My name is Mike Sullivan. I am the co-chair for Charlotte East. And on behalf of Charlotte East, thank you so very much for being here today. Thank you. I've had a chance to work with a lot of you folks over the last few years, and you have worked with Charlotte East. Charlotte East is an all-volunteer organization. I think I need to get closer to it. Thank you. Thanks, Louise. It is an all-volunteer organization that works to promote and serve as an advocate for the many communities, businesses, and organizations that call Charlotte, the east side of Charlotte, home. It's very appropriate that we are here today because this organization started for what was going on here at the Eastland site. Concerned citizens, businesses, organizations that were home on the east side begin to be concerned here. So it's very important that as we are meeting here today in this beautiful facility that we are looking to where we're going from here. And I think that video was very appropriate. So thank you all for that. I'd like to start off by recognizing all of the members of the Charlotte East Board. The Charlotte East Board is involved with economic development, with education, obviously, parks, recs, transportation, anything that is affecting the east side, we're involved with it. And just for all the hard work, again, we're a volunteer organization. We do have a couple positions available. So if you do have an interest in getting engaged with our organization, please let me know. But I'd like to have all of the members of the Charlotte East Board, if you would just stand up or signal that you're there. Charlotte East is committed, as I said, to many entities, but it is committed to education, and it's the education of all. We have a vision that all of our schools should be models of excellency and diversity, and we believe that this can be accomplished by intentionally creating opportunities here on the east side. Much of our efforts are driven by the members of the Charlotte East Education Committee. The organization, this event this evening was put together by them, and I'd like to recognize that committee. Many of them are members of the Charlotte East Board. Some, though, are involved just with the subcommittee. So if you would, all the folks who are on the committee, the Education Committee of Charlotte East, please stand up as well. The community is made up of many entities, and we're very fortunate to have roughly 24 or more individuals, organizations, businesses, communities that have helped us put this event together. They operate in many ways. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's support, sometimes it's just getting the word out. So I appreciate all of our sponsors. They are listed on some of the information about the event, so please, if you see them or are involved with them, thank you so very much. We also have a number of elected officials here tonight. Their service and dedication is always appreciated, and I think sometimes we only think of them when things aren't going the way, but 99% of the time they're working hard for us. It's the stuff we don't hear about or think about that they're really putting together. We certainly appreciate that. We have here, and I think he had to leave, he had another appointment, State Representative Nasheed Majid. We have Becky Carney. Becky? Yeah. There we go. Thelma Byers Bailey, School Board. Margaret Marshall, Carol Sawyer, Lenore Sheck, Ms. Astry, and we have the District 5 representatives from City Council, Matt Newton. Many individuals, as I said, operate and help us, volunteers. We do have a special volunteer this evening who is our videographer, Louis Short. Louis. And I think also it's fitting and proper that we recognize all the individuals that are involved in the education of our children. They are always there for our children, and I'm here to state that at East Charlotte we will always be there for you. So anyone who is a CMS staff member, an educator, or affiliated with the school system, if you would please stand up and let's recognize their hard work. Very fortunate also to have with us tonight a member of our board at Charlotte East Education Subcommittee, a member who is also an educator here on the East Side, is Greg Ashuto. Greg, as I said, is a member of the Education Committee. He is also a teacher, an English teacher at Garinger High School. And he wrote this. I actually had it on my sheet and he crossed it out, but I put it back in. He's quite an educator. And we're very fortunate to have him in our classrooms. He is the 2018 Beacon Learning Community Teacher of the Year. He is a writer, fellow of the Raleigh-based think tank group EdNC. He is one of Elevate Lifestyle's top 30 under 30 Charlotte leaders. And he is the winner of the United Way Central Carolina's Civil Servant of the Year Award. So as I said, it's obviously he's engaged in many things, and we're fortunate to have him in the classroom as well. But I must say, because I am the co-chair of Charlotte East, is that to us, Greg is East Charlotte. He teaches in the East, he lives in the East, and tonight he is here to introduce and welcome our Superintendent, Earnest Winston, to the East. Greg?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for coming out this evening. To provide a little bit of context before we begin, over the course of the past few months, the Charlotte East Education Committee has solicited feedback from teachers, parents, other stakeholders on the East Side regarding questions they would like to discuss with Superintendent Winston. The questions I'll be raising this evening represent a compilation of those questions and ideas from the parties listed on tonight's agenda. Additionally, all questions submitted on the index card as you guys walked in will be reviewed throughout the course of the evening, and we will try to address a few at the end. If we could turn those in to the front desk or to Louise. Louise, where are you at? You in the room? She must have stepped out. So if you find Louise, you can give the card to Louise. She'll try to get to me the questions that you guys would like to answer. If we do not get those questions tonight, we will review them as a committee and get back to you as long as you put your contact information on them. So with that being said, let me introduce our superintendent, Earnest Winston. Superintendent Winston is a teacher. He's a parent to 2 CMS students. He's a communicator, a leader, and someone who is dedicated to providing the best educational opportunities to all of our students. Please join me in welcoming Superintendent Winston.
So good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Excellent. Wonderful. This is a huge and a nice crowd. First and foremost, I want to take a moment to thank Principal Concepcion. There you are. I was looking for you. I want to thank you and your staff for hosting this evening. You guys have put on a wonderful, wonderful program, and I want to thank the students. I believe the culinary students from East Met. Also, although I was not able to enjoy it as much as I would have liked to, I think we had some other students who provided entertainment. From Sela, wonderful, wonderful. You guys did a wonderful job. I heard you all. And so did all of us, so thank you. I want to thank our CMS staff members who are here. I also want to thank our board members, and I know you all are spread throughout the room. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Charlotte East for providing a forum for the community to come together and have an important conversation around something that impacts all of us. Whether you have students, children in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools or not, education impacts each and every one of us. So Charlotte East, Dr. Woods, and your entire team, thank you all for making this possible. So I was at an event a few months ago, and there was a gentleman who came up to me after the event, and he said, Mr. Winston, you are the greatest known unknown. And it stuck to me for a little bit. I was a little bit perplexed. Then I reflected later on that evening, and it came to me exactly what he meant by that. People know you, may have seen your name, but maybe they don't know a whole lot about you. So if you will allow me just to take a few moments to just share a little bit about who I am, I would greatly appreciate that. Yes, I am your superintendent of a district that includes 148,299 students. I am a former journalist, and I did that for about 8+ years. And my last 2 years in the business were with the Charlotte Observer. And I'm also a husband. I'm also a husband. And I still have a honey-do list. Having this job didn't get me out of that. I will tell you, I love history. I absolutely love history. And as a matter of fact, I am researching my family history now. Haven't gotten as far along as I'd like, but I absolutely love history and genealogy. But more important, my most important job is that of a father. That's my most important job. And my wife and I, we have 2 little girls who are students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. We got a 6th grader and we have a 3rd grader. And I will tell you, that is the most challenging, most difficult, yet the most rewarding job I will ever have. And in many ways, it's prepared me to be superintendent. So that's who I am. That's a little bit about me. I grew up in Chicago, and we relocated to Charlotte in 2001 by way of Cincinnati. Also live in Kentucky. So I've been to a few places. I also think it's important for you all to have an understanding of what I believe in. What do I believe in? I think it's important that you know that I believe all children, every child in CMS can learn. This is not a kid problem. I believe kids come to us with what they have. They give us their best. And it's up to us as educators to meet every child where they are. But I believe they come to us with their absolute best. Now, I also believe that not all children learn in the same way. And so we cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach to education. Some kids come to us way ahead. Some come to us a little bit further behind. But it's our responsibility to take that child and give him or her what they need to be successful and to be able to reach their full potential. I also believe that we're all connected in this work. What impacts one of us impacts the other. And that's important to know. I believe we're in the business of preparing children to reach their full potential. That could be a career in the military, higher education, or it could be in the workforce. But whatever that looks like for each child, we've got to prepare them. I think it was Dr. King who said, the goal of true education, character plus education, that is the goal of a true education. And so I'm ever mindful of that. So, you're probably wanting to know, well, what does he know about the East Side? I know that the East Side is rich in culture. I know that the East Side has great food. Absolutely. And I know that there is a wide diversity of faith houses on the East Side. Probably more per capita than anywhere else in this county. And I know that the East Side is home to the largest number of immigrants in our community. And there's great diversity on the East Side of Charlotte. And I will tell you, I believe the East Side is probably the most diverse part of this county. I believe that to be the case. And I see a lot of nods affirming that. So there are a lot of great things happening in East Charlotte. Now, what is the fabric that makes the East Side so great? I think a lot of that has to do with the many partnerships that exist here on the East Side. One of those partnerships, and we've got many faith-based partnerships in our school systems, and I know that there are many, many more partnerships than the one that I will mention tonight. So I don't want to offend anybody, but I just wanted to highlight a few of those partnerships. One that we talk about a lot is McHigh. And I saw Principal Mark at McClintock here. Okay, and you could speak about this probably even better than I can. But the partnership that you all have with Christ Lutheran is one of our flagship partnerships in the district. See, we can't do this work alone. We rely on our entire community to get this right. We don't have all the solutions. We don't have all of the resources. We don't have all of the manpower. And so that's why it's important for us all to work together. Another partnership, New City, Greenway Park, and Idlewild. That's another tremendous partnership that we celebrate. And yet another is with Central United Methodist. And I know they touch several schools. We just didn't have all the space to put. But I want to thank you all for your wonderful partnerships. And I think Ms. Woods, who may be a member of that congregation, thank you all. So we've also got some partnerships around out-of-school time and enrichment with Urban Promise, Carolina's Youth Coalition, Girl Scouts, Generation 1, Promise Youth, and then around literacy, Augustine Literacy Project. business partnership with Hendrick Automotive Group, Second Harvest Food Bank. We've got a lot of partnerships. So, now, I know this firsthand because I've actually been a judge in the book study competition that we conduct every year. And the students, are there any students from Garinger here?
Yes, we do.
Yes. And
A real old one.
How about we say a more seasoned?
Real old one.
We'll stay
That's
there.
wisdom, my man.
There you go. Thank you, sir. So, the JROTC at Garinger High School is absolutely phenomenal. Is absolutely phenomenal. So much so that they've been the top winner for the past 2 years in the book study competition. So a lot of great things going on at Garinger. There are 9 CTE programs at Garinger High School. Just to name a few of them, the software development, culinary arts, and the graphic and digital design. And I also want to highlight the fact that Garinger has moved from being a D to a C school. Yes. I think that's important because that shows growth. Garinger, and don't know if Principal Gracie is here. There you go. How did I miss you? Okay, so I'll tell you, I bought a sweatshirt, and I was going to wear it. It's a Garinger sweatshirt, but I didn't want to offend any of the other schools. So next time, maybe next time. So thank you for all the fabulous work you're doing over at Garinger. Had an opportunity to visit Garinger earlier this school year. And I wish it were under better circumstances, but it did give me an opportunity to meet with staff and just find out what's on their minds. So thank you. I also want to share some more facts. And guys, this is breaking news. We literally just announced this, like within the past 24 hours. So you guys are kind of getting the scoop. It's an old journalism term. 21 magnet schools in CMS were just recognized for the excellence in their program. 2 of the 5 schools earning the highest distinction, School of Excellence, by the Magnet Schools of America are from the East Side. Albemarle Road Middle and Idlewild Elementary School. Wow. That is huge. And we also have Shamrock Gardens Elementary. All right. That's right. Shamrock is in the house. We have East Mecklenburg High School as well. They were named Schools of Distinction. So can we give them a... Now, people ask me from time to time, so what's the plan? What's the plan in CMS? We have a strategic plan. It's called Strategic Plan 2024, What Matters Most. And this plan was developed with a great deal of community collaboration, staff input, student input. Families played a role in the development of this plan. And so this is our plan, and we, unlike some of the other plans that we've had in the past, we tried to really simplify it. We tried to simplify it. And there are 3 goals, and you guys are very smart, so I won't read to you, but there are 3 primary goals in this plan. And so this is our strategic plan. This is our roadmap. to get us to where we want to be. Now, equity, very important topic. And our Board of Education has lifted this topic up as one that is extremely important. And I will tell you, equity has always been important in the district, but our Board of Education has elevated the conversation. And you all may recall that last year, our Board of Education passed approved an equity policy. We've had an equity policy for a different one for about 2 decades. It had not been revised in about 10 years. And I know there are some folks in this room who served on a previous equity committee that was created, and that committee did a lot of great work. Lots of great work. Primarily what they were looking at were themes and other stuff. And so the board, important things, but the board has sort of shifted that thinking around equity. And so now our current board has said we want to look at those systems, those processes that are barriers for all students getting what they need to be successful. And so in February of 2018, staff released Breaking the Link. It was a report, and I know you're thinking, it says Breaking the Link, as if it has happened. It was aspirational. It's something that we're striving to do. And so there were many people who said, you know what, we should not air our dirty laundry. Because Breaking the Link highlighted lots of disparities, disproportionalities. It essentially, in a nutshell, said we are not doing right by all of our students that you all have entrusted us with. We're not doing a great job with all of our students. And so I just want to take a moment to share with you the Board of Education's definition of equity. And that's the one that we're using to guide our work, and the new equity committee that the board created had its first meeting this week. And they got off to a great start. And so if you all are interested, the meetings are open to the public, and you're more than welcome to attend. But the board's definition of equity is providing the opportunities, support, and environment, high expectations and resources that every student needs to achieve educational success, feel valued, and contribute to a thriving community. And there are 6 focus areas that the Equity Committee will be delving into. And you see those 6 focus areas, and they're not listed in order of priority because they're all important. Now, what do we believe about equity? What do we believe about equity? Quality instruction. The quality of teaching matters in all of our buildings. It doesn't matter what school you're in. Quality teaching is important. And I believe the more teachers build strong relationships with their children, that they're privileged to teach every day, the better ultimately students will do in school. Quality teaching is paramount. The work involves unlearning and relearning strategies that will get us to better outcomes for students. What do I mean by that? So we have adopted, as many of you all know, a new curriculum. English language arts curriculum in our elementary schools. And we've also adopted math curriculum in 6th grade. And so it's different from what teachers have known and have done. And so we've given our teachers, our educators, permission to sort of unlearn some of those things and learn the new way of doing things. And then we must also identify and disrupt practices that play out in classrooms. That is an absolute must. If we're going to create and reproduce and sustain disparities based upon race and bias, and we know that these things exist. But it's our goal to disrupt that, to interrupt that. So, our equity agenda, regardless, see, here's the thing. It is too predictable as we stand and sit here today to predict which students are going to succeed and which students are going to fail. It is too predictable. And it's not just a CMS issue. This is something that school districts across the country are dealing with. Now, I say that to say we're all struggling with this, but it doesn't make me feel any better, because my concern, and I told you earlier I have 2 children. I really have almost 150,000 children because I'm responsible for every child in this district, not just my 2 biological children. And so I have a responsibility. Our team in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, we have a responsibility to interrupt those practices that create and sustain and or reproduce disparities. Because we need every child. We have to cultivate those unique gifts that every child brings to school. And then we also want to do what I just mentioned, is eliminate that predictability of who succeeds academically. Now, staff, you cannot participate in this. So you see 2 numbers here, 2 percentages. Does anyone want to take a guess as to what it could mean? Well, since no one wants to participate. So, there's this thing called perception and practice. And so, there was a perception in a study that was done, and CMS was not part of the study, but we certainly could have been part of that study. But there was a perception that 97% of teachers held this perception that they were teaching materials that was aligned to the standards. But in reality, upon further research, only 24% of the materials were aligned to the standards. That is a huge difference. And so we have folks across this country who are doing great things. They're working hard every day, but we've got to make sure we're teaching kids the right things. Standards aligned curriculum. We talk about that a lot in our staff meetings. And so I want to share with you that this, to me, is just the beginning of a conversation that I want to be ongoing with you all. And so I will be back if Ms. Concepcion will host us again. Okay. Or we can go somewhere else. We can, but I will be back. I will be back. And so in terms of next steps, I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper with identifying and deploying differentiated supports for our schools. Because I mentioned earlier that not all kids need the exact same thing. I also want to explore the idea of having a dual language feed to Garinger High School. I know that is important to the folks who sit in this room. And so I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility. And so I want to explore that a little bit more. Now I know that we don't have grade. We've got another year before we max out in terms of the offerings here at Charlotte East. So we've got a little bit of time, but I think now is a good time to really start that conversation about having a dual language program here that feeds the Garinger. I want to expand the recruitment efforts, and I want to be more intentional about the diversity of our teaching force, because I think it's important that kids see people who look like them so that they can aspire one day to say, I can do that as well. So I think it's important that they see people that they can also identify with. And then I also want to continue to look at the course offerings in high schools and make sure that we're providing all students with access to higher level and advanced courses. So, I say 5-year plan or 5-year vision, but really what I'm trying to say is that in 5 years, if I could have my choice, in 5 years, these are the things I want us to have at least accomplished at a very minimum. I want every student to be able to graduate with a meaningful diploma and be able to work or pursue, whether it be higher education, career in the military, or in the workforce. The diploma has to mean something. It can't just be a piece of paper. But it's got to be something that really prepares every student to be successful in life. Because that ultimately is our purpose, is to raise students who are going to be successful in life. I want all students to have access to a highly effective teacher. I'm not going to say if, but when we reach the level, bless you, when we reach the level of success that we want to achieve in CMS, we will do it through great teaching. Make no mistake about it. I'm very clear about that. And right now, as I stand here, I cannot say that we have a great, highly effective teacher in every classroom. That is our goal. That is our goal. And then I want to double the number of third graders who are reading on grade level. It is absolutely appalling that only 39% of third graders are reading on grade level. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And we should all be very concerned about it. And then I want the community to understand that giving every child what he or she needs to be successful is important. But sometimes, no, not sometimes, all the time, we have to give some students more because they come to us with less. That doesn't mean that everyone will not get what they need to be successful. just means that some students need a little bit more. And I am so excited to be able to work for a school board that understands that and supports that. All children, we will provide them with what they need. And there's some children who need a little bit more. We gotta be able to meet those needs as well. So, I think this is Idlewild Elementary School. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for your partnership. I want to thank you for your passion around this topic. Thank you for holding us accountable. This is too important a topic for us not to all be in this together. And we've got to be all in. And your presence here tonight signifies that you are. So thank you all very much, and look forward to the next part of the conversation.
Hello? Okay, we're good. Good to go. All right, so to reiterate this evening, Miss Louise Woods is in the back, right next to the door, holding up index cards in her hand right now. If you at any point have any questions for the superintendent or any questions that arise from this conversation, please see Louise. She will get you a card, and if we cannot answer those questions tonight, we will do our best to ensure follow-up. We're going to go ahead and get to it. So, as of 3 hours ago, you finished your first semester as superintendent of Charlotte-Mecklenburg School. So congratulations to you. You know, you discussed this quite a bit about in your district travels. You have seen excellent things that have been happening on the east side. Can you lift up again some of those specific programs in your school visits that you've seen that can really be exemplar models for how to conduct business across the area?
Yes. So one of the things that I want to highlight, and I talked about many of these things in the presentation, but I want to highlight because I think it's worthy of highlighting. We have some excellent teachers in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, and in particular on the east side. Prior to coming here, and there were several board members who attended as well, we were at Vance High School just prior to coming here. And we recognized our teachers who received their national board certification. And those teachers who renewed, and those teachers who renewed their national board certification. And I say that to say that, to me, that's a sign of people who want to get better at their craft, so that ultimately they can pass that down to our students. My point is, we have some outstanding educators in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. Bless you. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have some tremendous partnerships on the east side of Charlotte. And so those are two things in particular that I'm really proud of. Is there room to grow? Absolutely. So if there's someone in here who belongs to a business or a faith house or an organization, and you want to establish a partnership with one of our schools in East Charlotte, please see LaTarja Henry, who is my chief of staff, and she's walking around. She's in the back. She raised her hand. Thank you, LaTarja. But there's definitely room for growth and others to get involved. So if that's something that interests you, we'd love to have the conversation.
Thank you for that question. And jumping around a bit on the conversation regarding quality teachers in every school. This week in the state of North Carolina, public education has been a buzz with Leandro. The 1994 case, since 1994, the state of North Carolina has been trying to determine what constitutes a sound basic education for all students. 2 days ago, a Superior Court judge laid the framework for a plan to reach that ideal. One core tenet of any implemented plan going forward must be a system of teacher development and recruitment that ensures each classroom is staffed with a high-quality teacher who is supported with early and ongoing professional learning. And as you just mentioned, those are all core tenets that you anticipate hitting soon in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. While we wait for the specific mandates to trickle down from Raleigh in the next few months, work can be done now to address some of these staffing issues here at home. Conversations with teachers confirm data indicating that high rates of staff turnover exist at some of our high poverty, high need school within the district. One teacher at an East Side school described the challenges of working in an environment that in 5 years has experienced an 80% staff turnover. We need assurance that all of our schools have a stable, diverse staff with experience, credentials, and professional success. And obviously, you do see this as a top priority. But specifically, could we get into a few more details about how are we going to track, retain, and support such teachers, specifically in the context of our high poverty schools?
Sure. It's a great question. So one of the things that I think is important is how do we refer to our schools? Because when I say that, I mean language, words matter. And so how we describe our schools are extremely important. When we talk about the great diversity in our schools in East Charlotte, and I believe if we lead with those attributes, then we will find the teachers who want to teach in our schools. But I think words matter, and so I think we've got to be careful and cognizant of how we describe our schools. I know we use the terminology, high poverty, but I just think we've got to be careful about how we describe our schools. We've got to lead with the assets that we have. Recruiting, we all know that there's a national teacher shortage, which certainly doesn't make our jobs in CMS easy. There are a couple of things that we're doing in CMS. We work with our university partners, and we've got several in this region. The CMS Public Schools Foundation also has a teaching residency program, which attempts to lure teachers like myself who came from another career and train them to become educators. And then I think we've just got to look at different ways of doing things, right? We've got to be very cognizant. When you ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a child will say, I want to be a lawyer. And we say, oh, great. And then the next child says, I want to be a doctor. Oh, wonderful. And when he or she says, I want to be a teacher, do you know that look on your face speaks volumes? No, I'm serious, right?
No, you're correct. It does. Truly.
So we've got to be thoughtful and cognizant about how we respond. We've got to elevate this profession back to where it once was. But it's going to take all of us to do that. We can certainly do our jobs, but we need everyone in this community to help us elevate the profession of teaching to the heights where I believe we'll get back to.
Absolutely. And speaking of community, and thank you for that answer, right now I am going to kick it to a representative from our Garinger Student Government Association this evening to ask you a question regarding course offerings in our schools.
In order to retain our families in Charlotte East and to effectively educate to advance course offering career opportunities, visual and performing arts, extracurricular opportunities, and assess the post-secondary options. Compared to CMS students living in affluent areas, how will you assure this is the case? How will you address poverty-related barriers such as additional costs, lack of transportation, and citizenship issues that prevent students' participation?
Well, it's a great question. And so, I mentioned earlier that we have to partner. And so, we have to ask for what we need of our funding partners to help secure the resources we need to be able to provide all of those things that you just spoke about. It's also important, for the reasons you mentioned, that all students have access to those opportunities. Because we talk about creating well-rounded students, not just students who are book smart, that's important. But we want students who can function and do well in the real world after you leave Garinger High School. And so it's incumbent upon us, and I know that our newly formed equity committee will help us with those things, and they will be able to make recommendations. But I do firmly believe that it's important that we do provide the access and the opportunities for all students to be able to meet your needs. That is extremely important to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for that question. We're going to look specifically in the context when you're talking about equity and the work that the Equity Committee is now committed to doing. A word that we often don't use when we speak about equity is segregation. As of 2018, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools was the most racially segregated school district in the state of North Carolina. 55% of our students, according to the North Carolina Center for Justice, the North Carolina Justice Center, would have to be reassigned to achieve racial parity in our district. The segregation is visible on the east side. Despite the diverse makeup of our neighborhoods, we have elementary, middle, and high schools with 90% plus minority student body populations. And the Leandro case has delineated the resulting challenges and the changes needed to address this. What actions can the district commit to in order to address the re-segregation of our school system and the educational disparities that have come with it?
So I believe, and it is no secret, that we have largely resegregated. I will tell you that we take steps, our Board of Education has taken steps through our student assignment plan, and every 6 years we visit our student assignment plan. And that's one way that we attempt to address segregation in our schools. We also have to partner with others, other government agencies, those who create policy around housing and other policies. Because the reality is our schools are a reflection of our communities that we live in.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to be intentional. And, there's got to be a little bit more courage around that topic. So this past weekend, this Monday, we celebrated the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And so when I think about Dr. King and what he did for our community, our world, he accomplished a lot of great things. But I'm very clear that he could not have done it alone. And so I say that to say that it takes all of us. It takes all of us to move the ball forward, whether it be around tackling the issue of a segregated school system, or whatever that issue is. It takes all of us, and we all have to be committed. We're certainly willing to do our part as a school district, but it's important that others be a part of that conversation as well.
Thank you for that candid response. And on the topic of this plan, I'm going to move my chair because I'm looking at you through a plan. It's okay.
If we can fix that.
Thank you. It is very nice. Like, don't get me wrong. So, and I'm glad that you're really speaking of community partnerships, and specifically civic partnerships. Because if I'm not mistaken, outside that window, we're going to be seeing much different scenery, hopefully, in the next few years. And I know that is a huge topic on the east side. I know we have, it's the buzz of the east side right now. The potential expansion of the Lynx Gold Line. And while the plans are not finalized, the announced placement of our professional soccer team headquarters here at the Eastland Mall site. They signal major economic changes for our corridor. And there is palpable excitement, but at the same time, there are questions about what our East Side schools are going to look like should this growth happen as we anticipate happening. How would you envision, as you're speaking of collaborative partnerships, how would you envision such a partnership between CMS, the city, the county, and private investors to ensure that, while we are growing this social and economic capital of this corridor, that we still work to ensure that we're increasing the diversity, vitality, and effectiveness of our East Side schools?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I want to share, for those of you all who may not be aware, but I do think we already have really strong partnerships with our partners at the county. And I saw Commissioner Durrell. We met, our Board of Education met with the Board of County Commissioners this week. It was yesterday, yes it was. And yes, it has been a long week. And there will be additional meetings because both boards committed to that. And so there's a strong partnership there. We do have a strong partnership with the city as well. And I think it's important, we recognize that we can't do this work alone. And so it's important that we strengthen those existing partnerships and develop newer partnerships. As I mentioned, you talked about the diversity.
Yes.
That's our greatest strength, I believe, in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Our diversity is our greatest strength.
And sorry, I'm gonna interject because I want to pull a plug for Garinger. I know I'm up here, but speaking of this diversity, at Garinger we have 630 English language learners. They represent 30 languages from 42 countries, ranging from Syria to Togo. So this is the true asset of our community. I'm sorry, I always got to throw Garinger some love when I get the opportunity. So go ahead, I'm sorry. And it makes, this diversity creates a school environment where the students, no matter where they're from, they can support one another. While they might be different culturally, a lot of them share common ideas, common dreams, common aspirations. And this creates an excellent model of something that we can export to other schools in CMS.
Absolutely. And as educators, we have to use the diverse makeup of our student bodies to be able to effectively teach all students well. So that should be an asset. It shouldn't be a barrier. I think about students who speak multiple languages. Businesses, corporations, they are specifically seeking, because look, we're not just competing, our students are not just competing with their peers in Charlotte or even North Carolina or even just in the United States. They're competing with their peers from across the globe. And so it is a tremendous asset for a student to know multiple languages, to be able to interact with people of various and diverse backgrounds. That's extremely important. And so I think we need to emphasize that a little bit more and tout
So specifically, when we look, and not to paraphrase, but when you're saying like when we look at these plans going forward, specifically on the east side, how our schools are currently made up with these changes that are coming, is this something that we want to retain on the east side and celebrate?
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Point of clarification, thank you. Right now I do want to kick it again to a representative from Students for Educational Reform, Ms. Sharika Comfort. Sharika, could you stand real quick? Let's run her a mic. She is representing her organization and has a question regarding school security.
Superintendent,
How are you doing?
pretty well. And so I work with high school and college students with Students for Education Reform, and we recently several house meetings with over 100 some odd CMS high school students, and a couple issues surfaced, but families and students have expressed concerns about safety issues ranging from bullying to guns on campus. For students to succeed, they must feel confident that within our schools, they will experience a positive learning environment. How will CMS rebuild a culture of trust within schools and in the community to ensure the safety and security of our students?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Comfort. And I'm glad you mentioned that way. Trust is something that's earned. It's not something that's given or should be given. And so we have to re-earn that trust. Part of that is by being transparent, being open, and being even more candid. When I think about opportunities around safety, I can think of no greater opportunity than our community and our families to help us with this particular topic. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So, when we have incidents that occur in our schools that involve a weapon, CMS does not produce weapons, so we don't give them out. They come from places in our community. And maybe I was a little bit too candid there, but that's the reality. The reality is our schools are a reflection of our community. And so it's incumbent upon families in our community to know what our kids are doing. A lot of stuff happens on social media, right? We need families to be able to monitor what's happening on social media, know what their kids are doing. That's important. And so I can think of no better way to collaborate than making sure that we're all in this together and that we're working toward a common goal. But it takes our families, our communities, and our school system. Now, we do have things in place to report bullying. There's an anonymous way to do that. We do have a number of different protocols, and so that if a student feels bullied, then the first step should be to contact the principal. We also have a learning community, and I know we've got several of our learning community superintendents here. If you're not satisfied with the response you get at the school level, you should reach out to the learning community. We also have an ombudsman's office that helps families and even students and community members navigate CMS. I know we're a large district, but this is one of the ways that we try to personalize things. Because you can go to the ombudsman's office and say, I just don't know where to go, or I need you to point me in the right direction. Our bullying prevention specialist, John Conselman, is another point of contact. So there are a number of resources where families can go if they have concerns around bullying. But I would encourage all of our families and members of our community to help us on this journey to eradicate weapons, violence, anything of that sort entering our schoolhouse, because safety is our top priority in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. But we need everyone to help keep our schools safe. Thank you.
So we are running a little bit short on time. So what we are going to do right now, we have one question from Diane Langevin from the Winterfield Neighborhood Association, who would like to address some of these community partnerships with CMS that you previously discussed. And in the interim right now, please, if you do feel like your concerns or questions were not represented, please ensure that you get a note card from Luis, or if there is one laying around, and give it to either myself or Luis or a representative from the Education Committee. And I'll personally ensure that we'll do the best to address those questions. So Diane, you got a mic?
I got a mic. Can you all hear me? Welcome, Superintendent Winston. You mentioned a lot of connections, but you didn't mention the neighborhoods, how strong neighborhood associations can work with the schools. We are very fortunate. We have a good relationship with the neighborhood school, but it's added work on some of the staff that to keep us in, alert of all the events that are going on, when they need volunteers, because we volunteer for the EOGs, but if we don't know about it, we can't help. So yes, you have all your business, which you mentioned, in the churches, but I wish there was a way in which some kind of policy or practices that CMS could put in place that would strengthen the communications between the community presidents, and there are a lot of presidents and communities here who want to adopt a school, which we have done, but we don't want to put an extra burden on the staff at the school. But yet, they can benefit from our volunteers to help out, and we work together. So, you know, what can you do to institutionalize the policies and the practices that maybe somebody could be assigned at the school to purposely work with neighborhood leaders to get us involved, to let us know what's going on, because it's a hidden treasure. I mean, it's a hidden resource. A lot of retirees on East Charlotte, so there's a lot of free hours.
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for your offer to join us in this endeavor. I know that there are some schools in the district where principals occasionally get asked to come and speak to a neighborhood association. If that's not something that you currently do, I would strongly suggest that that could be one way that you could have a line of communication with the school to be able to better know what's happening in schools in East Charlotte. So that's certainly, so you've done that.
We've done everything, but I just need a way to communicate.
A way to communicate? So.
Regularly.
Regularly.
Yes, that's the key word.
So here, I believe this to be true, that if there are particular schools that you're interested in volunteering in, and not just volunteering in, but you want to come and you want to see the school play, or you want to be engaged in the school, if you call a principal and you ask, and you say, this is what I'd like to do, this is what my neighborhood association, my HOA, this is what we want to do, I would be very hard pressed to think that we have a principal who would not want that engagement. And if you've done that and you haven't gotten a response, then let's have a conversation, because my expectation, schools are a part of the community. We're not separate and apart from the community. These are your schools. You ought to be in the schools. You have that right. As a community member, as a taxpayer in this community, these are all of our schools. And so I want you to be engaged to the level or to the extent that you want to be engaged. And again, my expectation is that our schools are a part of the community, an active part of the community. Now, I know that some schools welcome volunteers probably better than other schools. So we're on a journey, and we'll get there, where every school welcomes a volunteer who wants to come in and be of assistance.
That's not our issue. Our issue is correspondence.
The communication piece.
Communication.
The commu-
Is to get a person in a school whose sole part of the job is to communicate with the community, say, hey, we're having this event. Hey, we need volunteers. That's our issue right there. We have great communication with the school for other things, but
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah, that's what we need.
Okay. So I do know that, I know that staffs are stretched thin, right? I completely get it. I get it. But what I need for, and many of them do a great job of this, is to, many of our schools, I need all of them to understand, is that our communities are here to help us. We do have staff in our learning communities and in central office that provide support to schools. And so perhaps that could be an avenue. So in our community partnerships and family engagement department, we have a person who's assigned to a portfolio of schools. And certainly Ms. LaTarja Henry, is Jennifer back? Oh, there's Jennifer. So make sure that you contact Jennifer before you leave today, because I believe that will be a good avenue for you to get connected and stay connected with the schools. Schools also have distribution lists, listservs, and if you want to be added to that, that's another way. Mr. Tom Miner, who's our social media guru, often tweets and puts things on social media about things that are taking place in our schools. And so Tom can certainly give you his card. So those are just, that's what you're looking for. Thank you. Thank you for wanting to get more involved. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Diane. As a high school teacher, I get pretty good at reading a room. So I know that we have about a little bit less than 10 minutes remaining. I have a few questions from the community here, but one I have to address because it's something that affects me personally. It's something that you have mentioned affects you personally. Literacy rates. Right now, what you mentioned about third grade reading levels. There is a major issue, and it's not just across Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, it's across the state of North Carolina. When we have ninth graders coming in, a class of ninth graders coming in, reading at a fourth and a half grade reading. And hopefully if we get lucky by the time they graduate, they're on eighth grade. What can we do collectively? I know there are many partnerships across the state and across the county that are working to address literacy, and third grade is that benchmark. Can you kind of put in your own words, your passion or explanation about how we can address this issue? I mean, literacy affects every single one of us in this room more than any other subject. And I hate to say it as an English teacher, but you can't read, you can't. Like, you just can't. So, I know that was a long-winded, passionate mess.
I appreciate the passion.
If you could please address the status of literacy rates, how can we collectively improve?
Sure. So before I answer that, or as part of my response to that, I want to provide some context to why literacy is so important. So when I said earlier that 39% of third graders are reading on grade level, we know that that is a predictor of future academic success. We know that if students are not reading on grade level by the third grade, their chances of being successful throughout the rest of their educational career decreases significantly. But not just their education, it impacts their life outcomes. So that's why we're so focused on literacy. That's why we've all got to be all in on this. So we have some tremendous partnerships, Reed, Charlotte, Augustine Literacy Project, helps to, we've got a number of different partnerships because we know we can't do it alone. And so we need our community
you can dedicate an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 a week to come in and be trained on how to teach students literacy skills, teach students how to communicate, because I think literacy goes beyond just knowing how to read. I think literacy is broader. It's how we communicate. In writing, orally, it's about listening as well. And so I would encourage anyone who wants to join us in this journey, sign up as a volunteer to be able to come back into our schools and help a student who may be struggling, who needs extra help. It also takes resources, right? Yeah. And so,
Speaking of resources.
Last time.
Closing time. So, but to clarify, I mean, this to the community right now is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to make a tangible difference in the lives of students, and it is a volunteer opportunity. And specifically, can you give bullet points for how members of our audience can sign up, go into a classroom to volunteer?
absolutely. So there is, if you go to our community partnerships and family engagement section on our website, it will tell you specific steps you need to take in order to be able to come into a school and volunteer with a child. I mentioned that safety is a top priority, so there is a background check. We want to make sure that everyone who's in front of our children, we want to make sure that we're creating a safe space. So that is certainly first and foremost. We do have other opportunities outside of literacy. If you just want to come and be a lunch buddy, those are opportunities that are available as well. If you want to come and fill in for the front office secretary and answer phones, if you want to make copies, there are a number of ways to get engaged. So we can meet all of your desires one way or another. But that's certainly the best way, is to go to the section on the website, Community Partnerships and Family Engagement, sign up to be a volunteer, and then we can match you with schools who have a particular need. I know that the Augustine Literacy Project also is seeking volunteers to come in and tutor, and they will train, because I know some people say, well, I don't know how to teach children how to read, you know. You can be trained in doing
I'm going to plug. I'm an Augustine Literacy.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Here, after I retired, I thought I wanted to work with a child who needs help, and I started at my neighborhood school. Augustine gives you, it's almost 2 weeks of training, and it is a major commitment. It's usually about 2 hours a week, and they've discovered that at least meeting with a student twice for about an hour during the week, that helps carry over the lesson and improve the learning. And the really great thing about this is I've done some just regular volunteering in a classroom, and a lot of people who have found their way to Augustine, their biggest complaint is you walk in and the teacher really isn't prepared for you, and she's scrambling to give you something to do. We'll take these kids and go find a place, and you don't feel like you're really making any progress. Augustine gives you the tools to, it's a prescribed program, and it's based on a program that has worked for kids who have learning disabilities and whatnot. It's very tactile. You learn how to do it. You actually prepare 6 lessons, and you actually go to a school and practice on kids before you are assigned to wherever you'd like to go. And it's really great. I got into it thinking, well, I'd like to read. I can tell you probably the best thing about it is the connection that I've made with the kids. You really start to care about them, and it's one-on-one, which that connection is so important because a lot of these children just don't have a mentor or someone who really truly cares about them, who will spend time, working with them. So I would definitely, I would highly, highly recommend it. It is a major commitment, and you do have to pay for the training materials, but if you went to to get trained, it would normally be about $2,000, and this you pay about $250 for your materials, and you have the materials. I'm still using the same ones that I started with, so it's really a great program.
Thank you very much. And if I could just add one tiny piece to what you just said, is that oftentimes what I hear from volunteers is that, you know, many volunteers go into a school setting to work with a child, expecting to be able to pour into children and meet their needs, and they walk out feeling like they've gained so much from the student as a part of that process. So it really is a two-way street. It's not just you pouring in, but it's you getting something back from that experience as well. So thank you.
Well, we would like to thank Superintendent Winston for his time this evening. Greatly appreciate it. On behalf of Charlotte East, we have some nice branding for you here, sir. It's a Charlotte East shirt, but we really would like to really appreciate you coming out and discussing these issues with us. We have an incredibly passionate East Side community, and I think these numbers tonight do show what we're capable of doing now and in the future if we combine these resources and continue with these energy to make a difference in the lives of our East Side children. So thank you again.
Thank you.